All right, so today's last review day is going to be a little bit different, of course, because you're physically not meeting with me because of unforeseen circumstances. And so basically, what you guys are going to do is you're going to watch this video. You were supposed to have received your the worksheet that went along with this at some point in time on Monday, and your duty is to show me this paper completed, and also meaning that you watched this video. So all your problems are correct by Tuesday, second half of H2H. So again, your um, your duty, your job, in order to get that Monday last signature, is to watch this video. Now make sure you complete the company worksheet, which you should have gotten on Monday, either from me or from Miss Childress, and then show me by second half H2H on Tuesday. So just a quick review over the topics. This is an overview, so it's going to cover everything. Again, of course, here are the homeworks that you need to have completed. You do need to grade one of them to receive the last two requirements to retake this. Again, remember the deadline is the 10th, which is Thursday, so pretty much everything has to be signed off by Tuesday. To review the concepts, remember we have gradients, which means slope. Remember to find the slope. It is y2 minus y1 all over x2 minus x1. Of course, that formula is in your reference booklet, so it's not like you really have to fully memorize it. And so you have that. Don't forget you have equations of lines. There's, of course, y equals mx plus c, which is slope-intercept, where m is the slope and c is the y-intercept. You also have standard, which is ax plus by plus c equals 0. Of course, remember that a cannot be a negative number and it cannot be a fraction when you're writing in standard form. At the geometry basics like midpoint and distance, again, those formulas are in your reference sheet. Right triangles, trigonometry, sine, cosine, and tangent, SOHCAHTOA, that is used when you're trying to find a side length or an angle measure of a right triangle. Law of sines, remember you use them when you have two sides and a non-included angle, two angles and an included side, or two angles and a non-included side. Law of cosines, which you use when you are trying to when you have side angle side or side side side. Again, these two are used when you're trying to find side lengths or angle measures of non-right triangles. And then lastly, the area of a triangle, which is 1/2 AB sine C. This can be used when you have the situation of side angle side, and you're trying to find the area of a triangle. A and B represent the two sides, and C is the included angle. So like always, we're just going to jump right on into it. We have this picture here. Since the diagram below shows a large ply ABCD with a fence BC crossing it, and we have all those given angle measurements, which are of course as shown in the diagram, which is not drawn to scale, and to be honest, probably none of the pictures are going to be drawn to scale. So you can't base it off of what it looks like. You got to base off of what you're given. Now we have to find the length of BD. Now BD is located right here within this triangle, and hopefully you can recognize that, hey, this triangle is an example of side, angle, side. So to find the length of BD, you're going to use cosine rule. Cosine rule says BD equals basically 10 squared plus 12 squared minus 2 times 10 times 12 cosine of that angle, which is 100. Make sure that you are in degree mode, so that way when you do this, you won't get anything too crazy, too funky. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and type this into my calculator. That is 10 squared. So we type it in, and we click enter. There it is. Okay, now that is not our final answer. Let's be realistic. How can a side length be 285 years long when the other two sides are only 10 and 12? So the last step is going to be to take the square root of our answer, and we'll end up getting our final answer for BD. So we're going to take the square root. Number second negative allows you to do the square root, and you get 16.9. So that is the length here, 16.9. That's our answer for BD. Hopefully no one had too much difficulty with that. If you did, please make sure that you can't really ask your questions right now because we're not in class, but of course when you bring this paper you can always come and ask questions. So now to find the measure of angle BCD. BCD means we are looking for this angle right here. Okay, we're looking for that angle right there. And to be honest, we're kind of at an interesting point to try to figure out this angle, because even though we now know this side is 16.9 and some change, we have the side opposite of the angle that we are looking for. But the only thing, actually we do have this side. This side is 15. It wasn't labeled, so we had to write that in. So if you notice within this triangle, you have two sides and an included angle. Or sorry, two sides and a not included angles, which means you're going to use sine rule to figure this out. So it's going to be 15 over the sine of 40. And let me actually make this one a little bit smaller. Okay, 15 over the sine of 40 equals 16.9 and whatever the rest is, because I am using the exact answer here, over the sine of angle BCD. That's what we're looking for. Now, because we are looking for an angle, we are going to end up taking the inverse of our to find our answer. So it's going to be 16.9 and the change. Sine 40 equals 15 sine BCD. Now, in order to actually find this out, we're going to take 16.9 in the change times the sine of 40. We're going to divide it by 15, and then we are going to do the inverse of all this. Okay, so we divide both sides by 15, and then you do the inverse of sine. And please, again, bear with me. I am doing this, as you can see, all through typing, so I'm trying to make it kind of nicely visual for you guys. Okay, so we're going to type that whole thing into our calculator. So I'll take my previous answer, which is still there. I'm going to multiply by the sine of 40, and then I'm going to divide it by 15 to get my answer before I take the inverse. So I'm going to do sine inverse of my answer to get my angle, which is going to be 46.4. So our answer for part B is going to be 46.4. And lastly, to find the perimeter of the label lot ABCD, we basically need to figure out what this side length is over here. Okay. Now, knowing that this angle is 46.4, and the change, we can actually figure out this angle over here, angle DBC, by adding these two up and subtracting it from 180. So I'm going to change colors real quick. I'm going to do 180 minus 40 minus the 46.4 answer that's sitting in my calculator right now. You'll see that that angle is 93.4, but I'm just rounding it for the sake of writing it. It was 93.6. So 93.6, and I'm not using the rounded answer here. I'm going to be using the full decimal here to actually find the side length over here. So for part C, to set this up, it's going to be 15 over the sine of 40. It's going to be equal to CD, because I need that to figure out my perimeter over the sine of that long decimal. Okay. Hopefully you guys are able to follow me. I know I'm kind of jumping around, but maybe the typing makes it a little bit nicer and neater. So 15 sine 93.6 equals sine of 40, CD sine 40. And the last step would be to divide both sides. So 15 sine 93.6 divided by the sine of 40 is going to be my answer for CD. We're going to go and we're going to type this into our calculator. And as you see, the answer is still sitting right there in my calculator. And I'm going to go ahead and divide this by the sine of 40, and I'll get my answer of 23.3. So then to find my perimeter, my actual final answer for part C, I'm going to add up all those values. So 12 plus 10 plus 15 plus the answer that's still sitting in my calculator. And my perimeter is 10, 15, and 12. 60.3 meters. There we go. This example goes ahead and reviews cosine rule and sine rule. And then, of course, covering some old school geometry topic of perimeter. So hopefully you guys are able to understand this. Pause the video whenever you need to try these problems out. Like review them, rework them, whatever. Honestly, you should actually try to do these problems on your own and then press play because you know the answer is going to be already worked out for you. So here's the next one. We have some points A, B, and C. They join to form a triangle, and the midpoint of AB is D, and the midpoint of AC is E. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 5, 3. That's A. -1, 1, 2, 3. Here's B, and then we have C. Okay. So connecting all these is going to give us our triangle, and then I'm going to go ahead and label them because we have to plot these points. This topic covers review concepts of midpoint and distance. So then it says to find, and that's all they want to apply A, B, and C. We don't have to apply D. We don't have to apply E. It does ask us, though, to find the distance from D to E. So to find D, which is the midpoint of A, B, okay, we're going to have to do the distance formula. Now, distance formula says x1 plus x2 divided by 2, comma, y1 plus y2 divided by 2. Okay, and so you're going to end up doing the distance formula. Pretty basic. Again, formula is in your reference sheet, so nothing too challenging, hopefully. So then that way, when you actually find 5 plus a -4 is a 1/2, and then 3 plus 5 is 8, divided by 2 is 4. There's your point for D. We do the same thing for E. E is the midpoint of AC, so to actually find this coordinate, we are going to do, I actually found the coordinates of E because I used the wrong endpoints. I used 5 and here. Yeah, so this actually was E. That was my mistake. I used A and C. To find D, I actually should use A and B. So it's going to be 5 plus a -1 over 2, comma, 3 plus 7 over 2. My mistake there. So then we'll have 4 over 2, which is 2, and then we will have 10 over 2, which is 5. So those are our coordinates. So then to find the distance says the formula x2 minus x1 squared plus y2 minus y1 squared. All that is under the square root. Do this real quick. Square root. That's how we find the distance. So we go ahead and plug everything in. We're going to do 1/2 minus 2 squared plus 4 minus 5 squared. Of course, I'm going to take the square root of all that. So this is going to be nothing but a -1.5 squared. No matter what, you should always be taking the square root. Like, you should always end up adding these numbers, which means that, this should be, as you're working these out, guys, you should always have a positive number, positive numbers that you're adding up together, because whenever you square something, it's going to end up being positive. So I'm just going to go ahead and type that into my calculator. I believe it was negative 1.5 squared. Well, it really doesn't matter because 1 squared, so it's going to be positive anyway. Actually, let me do it right. Because the calculator will mess up if you don't put it in parentheses. It'll give you a negative number. Make sure you put those in parentheses. Okay, now I'm going to take the square root of this, and the distance between my two midpoints is going to be 1.80. Yes. I think you guys were able to understand that. Here's the next one. Go ahead, if you haven't already done so, pause the video, try to work this one out on your own. When you're ready to see the answer, press play. And hopefully you realize that the angle of elevation, remember, always comes from some horizontal line going up. So the 28 should actually be right down there where A is. And then to actually calculate to the nearest meter, oops, and I didn't read the directions, haha, is, you use tangent. This is a right triangle, so of course you can use SOHCAHTOA. I have my opposite side, which is the 26.5. I have my adjacent, which is x. So tangent 28 equals 26.5 over x. To solve, you multiply both sides by x. That's where the tangent 28 equals 26.5 came from. And then you divide both sides by the tangent of 28. And you get 49.8 and some change, but of course you're round to the nearest meter. Make sure you do go back and reread the directions so that way you can make sure you're rounding the appropriate way. And of course that would be 50 meters. Okay, and now for the last one, go ahead and pause the video, try it out. When you're ready to see, go ahead and press play. All right, hopefully you were able to get this one and you use the slope formula, which you can see in reference booklet Y2. I had to make a quick adjustment. I realized that I messed up on my slope. It is y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1, which will give me 4 over 6, which equal 2/3. So that was your gradient, also meaning slope. If it asked you to find your parallel slope, it would be the exact same. If it asked you to find your perpendicular slope, it would have been a negative 3/2. Remember, perpendicular is opposite reciprocal. Then you had to find your equation for L, which means you took your slope and you picked one of your points to plug in. Now, me personally, I just picked -1 and 4 because it was the first one. Plugged it in to find my value for C. C represents my y-intercept, so that's the only thing I didn't know. So I plug it in, I simplify, and I solve to get that my y-intercept is 14/3, meaning that my equation is 2/3 x plus 14/3. Now, if L also passes through the point 8y, and you have to find the value of y, that means that when you plug it in, 8 for x and y for y, you can solve a regular linear equation. So when you plug in 8, you'll have 2/3 times 8 plus 4/3. When you multiply, that gives you a 16/3 plus a 14/3. Common denominators mean that you can add the numerators. 16 plus 14 is 30. 30 divided by 3 is 10. Now, do realize that this only covered maybe one of each type of concept that is going to be covered on your retake. That was also covered on your test. So do make sure that you go back, look over your homeworks, do extra problems. If you need to borrow one of my textbooks in the classroom, make sure that you come in and do that. Whatever you do, please make sure that you're prepared to improve your score on your retake. And again, remember that your deadline is Thursday to take it, not to get everything signed off. So basically Tuesday, when you come in to show me this paper saying that you did indeed watch the video, that would also be the time to have me go ahead and sign off because you also have all the homeworks completed and one of them is graded. Okay? You guys let me know if you have any questions, of course. Hopefully I see you on Tuesday.